Vitosha and Sofia, the mountain and the capital city. Two inseparables since olden times, when the Thracians and the Greeks called the city Triarica, the Romans Serdica, and the Slavs Sredec, and when the mountain was known by the Thracian name Scombri. The wealth of nature that Vitosha possesses has always been an attraction for people. That's why they kept building their settlements and fortresses at her hospitable foothills. Since ancient times, the Thracians considered the mountain sacred. And with the advent of Christianity, about 40 monasteries and many churches were built around it. They were called the Little Athos, which in ancient Slavonic meant Little Sacred Mountain. Unfortunately, most of the monasteries were burned down during the period of Turkish domination. Other temples are being destroyed even today. But there are also places where people raise new temple buildings off the ashes of the old ones. In one of the oldest surviving churches, the Bojana Church, built in the 11th century, magnificent murals have survived for centuries. They were painted in 1259, and with their artistic treatment, vitality, and spiritual depth, these mural paintings are half a century ahead of the Italian Renaissance. The development of Bulgarian culture was blocked by the Turkish invasion. The murals in the monastery just out of Kladnica village, painted during the foreign domination, are considerably inferior to those of Bojana, but they are a proof of the preservation of the national spirit. What's more, painting the mountain along with the saints gave her the status of a sacred place. Spiritually, the local inhabitants are linked to the folk and religious traditions, while their physical existence for millennia was dependent on the mountain. But the same people that considered Vitosha a sacred place cut down her forest for a living, and at a given moment were a real menace to her existence. On the initiative of a group of nature activists with the aim of preserving Vitosha, the Bulgarian government declared the most endangered part of the mountain a national park in 1934. This is the first nature preserve area on the Balkan Peninsula. Today, the park covers 227 square kilometers, which is only 50 square kilometers less of the total area of Vitosha. This area encompasses two total preservation zones, the Peat Bog Preserve and Bistriško Branište. There are several peaks higher than 1,500 meters, the highest of which, Cherni Vrh, is towering to 2,290 meters. The mountain prides herself with the 9 stone rivers or as the locals call them, the stone enormities. The round stone blocks of those enormities are formed as a result of the spherical weathering of the mountainous rocks. Occasionally, one can see other stone rivers created, alas, not by nature, but by man. This is what remains of the extraction of iron ore that has been taking place for millennia here. In the past, and sometimes even today, amethysts, chalcedonies, jets, opals, tourmalines and other semi-precious stones are extracted from the quartz and pegmatite ledges. Occasionally, pieces of virgin copper and gold are also found. According to chronicles, in the past there were gold mines all over the mountain. And even today one can see gold diggers panning off a grain or two from the sands of the Struma, Palakaria and Vladaya rivers. But perhaps the greatest wealth of the mountain lies in her springs and brooks, sources of a number of rivers. The water for many of the rivers comes from the high mountain peat bogs. Other wealths of Vitosha are her coniferous and deciduous forests. Most of the woods that had once been cut down are being restored after the declaration of Vitosha a national park. The Bistrica Preserve is famous for its density. It is difficult to say during which season Vitosha is most attractive. For the winter sport fans, surely this would be the winter. When there is snow and the weather is fine, on weekdays and especially on weekends, the mountain turns to a place for enjoyment of thousands of skiers and tourists of all ages. such days, transportation is never sufficient for those who want to enjoy this snow-white fairyland. The icicle-packed Bojana waterfall is right out of a fairy tale. But it is quite different when the spring tides come. With the first whispers of spring winds, nature comes back to life again. Most living creatures feel the instinct of procreation. The salamanders start looking for mates. Tritons are ready for their love adventure underwater. By energetically wagging their tails in front of the female, the males are trying to prove their masculinity as superior to their rivals. Out of the water, the calls of love pour out in sounds. A prominent singer, the nightingale, is competing with another one, the blackbird. All musicians in the orchestra of nature are trying to be on top of their abilities. The warm rays of the sun stir even the most indolent creatures. That's how spring hurries away and summer days and nights take over. Nature goes to sleep, so does Sofia. And once the sun is up again, Sophiads start for their mountain. It is claimed that Vitosha has over 2 million visitors each year. They walk the 350 kilometers of paths and lanes of the national park. They find shelter under the roofs of hostels, hotels, and rest houses. The inhabitants of the bustling city are in search of their leisure, but their presence on the mountain in such great numbers worries the ecologist because building activities as well as human behavior patterns shouldn't harm nature. What would happen, for instance, if most tourists permit themselves to pick flowers like these girls? Similar behavior would be the reason the once prolific snowdrop and other plants to vanish from the face of Vitosha. All species in the boundaries of the park, whether common or endemic to the Balkan Peninsula or Europe, are treasures of immeasurable value. It is a well-established fact that among the flowers on Vitosha Mountain, there are many rare or vanishing species like the bluebell or the orchid. Or the ranunculi, better known as the Vitosha tulip, and the Balkan iris, as well as other very valuable species. Isn't this ordinarily looking flower unique? The sticky substance which it lets oozing on its stem is a warning to unwelcome visitors. The mushroom and some herbs are the only exceptions to the rule. They could be gathered, but for private use only. The palette of the mountain wouldn't be so colorful if it wasn't for the butterflies fluttering over the flowers. Creature, great or small, has a right to live here, be it a butterfly or a beetle. A toad or a lizard. Regretfully, the bigger animals cannot stand the pressure of man and his pets in the areas attracting great crowds. Only in the most secluded or abandoned areas of Vitosha one could see a bear. Or wolves, for that matter, once chased away, but settling back again today. It's a common joke among speleologists that the southern slopes of Mount Vitosha are cut by caves like Swiss cheese. Duhlota is the most famous of them. This is the longest cave of Bulgaria. 17 kilometers of its length have been studied so far, but there are many inaccessible galleries and holes to be mapped yet. A poet once said that if you don't know the beauty of Vitosha in the fall, you don't know her at all. It is difficult to take that for a fact, because for the people who love the mountain, all seasons have their beauty. It is but a small number of capital cities in the world having such close rapport with nature. Sofia and Vitosha, the city and the mountain.